Bedtime.
Hello, welcome back to the Bedtime with Cousin Vinny series here exclusively on YouTube. I'm critically acclaimed national author Cousin Vinny Agnello, and we've been reading The Devil's Glove, one of the most beloved novels for a small press novel in America, maybe in the world. Anyway, when we get done reading these 15-minute segments, you'll at any time you're able to go to this phone number back here and give me a call, and you could purchase a discounted version of autographed version of The Devil's Glove. There's also an email address there. It says cousinvinny10@gmail.com. Yesterday we left you off at a really interesting chapter. Eddie Romano's making his big debut in Little League Baseball as something other than as a person with no talent. And his father is out in the stands in a verbal argument with this pitcher of for the Tigers, who are playing the Astros, Eddie's team. And the guy's a loudmouth, and Mr. Romano is having this conversation. This is page 99 of The Devil's Glove. Mister, you see, that's why they play the game. You're guaranteed nothing. My son plays for the Astros, and I want to make you a promise right here and now. You see, he's such a good hitter that he's going to blast one of your son's pitches right out of this ballpark. What do you think of that? Mr. Romano challenged, smirking. You really think so, huh? You wouldn't mind risking a small wager on that fact, would you? Prodded Rocco's father. Sure. How much do you want to lose? How much you got? I got $100. Vince, this is a little league game. I don't think you should be betting on it, Mrs. Romano interrupted. Yeah, Vince, I don't want to take your money, but if you insist. Yeah, I insist. $100 says that my boy Eddie will hit a home run off of your boy within 3 official turns at bat. If your son isn't pitching by his 3rd official turn at bat, then all bets are off. Deal? You're on, sucker! Rocco's father exclaimed, doing his best to make sure that everyone knew about their wager. The first batter for the Astros came up to the plate, and Rocco's father became louder than usual. Come on, Rocco! Turn on the gas, my boy! Strike that little runt out! Mrs. Romano thought to herself that this objectionable loudmouth was a godsend in disguise, because at least temporarily the other parents were concentrating their ridicules upon him instead of upon Eddie. She was also very upset with her husband for making a bet with this rude creature. She thought that the wager just encouraged his abhorrent behavior. It didn't take Rocco long to strike out the leadoff hitter, Stevie Smith. Stevie walked back toward the dugout, shaking his head in disbelief and announcing, "He's fast, man. You blink and the ball's by you." Mr. Mitchell yelled out to the next hitter, Davy Miles, "Choke up on that bat, Davy." Davy approached the plate with great confidence. He looked fearless as he inched closer and closer to the plate. He waited patiently, chewing a large wad of bubble gum. Rocco stepped off the pitcher's rubber and spit disdainfully in Davy's direction. Rocco picked at the rear end of his baseball pants, presumably to relieve the discomfort from his underwear crawling up the crack of his ass. After making the adjustment to his uniform, he quickly sniffed his fingers and then began rubbing up the baseball. Davy grew tired of waiting for him and stepped out of the batter's box momentarily. When Rocco stepped back onto the pitcher's rubber, Davy took a deep breath and entered the batter's box once again. Davy immediately began inching his way closer and closer to the plate. Davy was almost on top of the plate when Rocco went into his windup. With a menacing grin on his face, Rocco delivered a high fastball that hit Davy right on the batting helmet. Davy hit the dirt and his helmet flew off his head. He lay motionless, grasping his head with both hands as Mr. Mitchell raced out to attend to him. After a scary moment, Davy got up and dizzily proceeded down to first base. Rocco arrogantly kicked some dirt off the pitcher's mound toward home plate, then looked over toward his father in the bleachers and gave him the thumbs up sign. "Way to go, Rocco! That'll teach him to crowd the plate! Come on, Rocco! Bear down, son!" His father screamed joyously, enjoying every minute in the spotlight with orgasmic delight. The vast majority of folks in attendance were corporate executives and their spouses. The rather sedate parents in attendance were absolutely shocked at the behavior of this working-class heathen among them. Whispering voices filled the bleachers, and this time they weren't directed at Eddie or the Romanos. "When's your boy coming up?" Rocco's father laughed. "Keep on smiling, mister. At the rate your son's going, he'll be lucky if he doesn't get thrown out of the game," Mr. Romano predicted. Eddie sat in the dugout, studying Rocco's every move, completely unaware of all the dissension taking place out in the stands. Keith Strong was currently at bat, and Eddie noticed that Rocco had firmly established his control of the plate. By showing a, quote, wild streak, he had intimidated Keith into standing too far back in the batter's box. Although Eddie noticed this, in keeping with his bargain with his dream coach and the manager, he kept his mouth shut. He didn't want to do anything to diminish the magic in his glove. Rocco proceeded to easily strike Keith out, throwing fastballs over the outside corner of the plate. Although Keith swung at these pitches, from where he stood in the batter's box, it was physically impossible for him to reach them. With 2 men out, Johnny Mitchell stepped into the batter's box, self-assured. He was the team's best hitter, and his father spent many hours helping him with the finer points of the game. Unlike Keith, he stood close enough to the plate to be able to reach the outside corner with his bat. Eddie stepped into the on-deck circle and observed. He wished his hardest for Johnny to make it out. It didn't take any prodding to make him feel that way either. Johnny was always rotten to him, and he prayed for a little bit of reverse magic to knock him off his high horse. Rocco delivered the first pitch high and inside for a count of ball 1. The crowd began whooping it up for Johnny as he awaited the next pitch. Rocco looked toward the stands and sneered at the well-wishers. He then went back into his windup and delivered a fastball that jammed Johnny on the wrist of his bat. The ball floated weakly into the air, and Rocco made the catch. He gave Johnny the finger as he strutted off the mound. Eddie started to clap, and Johnny saw him doing it, and in retaliation, angrily threw his batting helmet at him. Eddie mocked him by throwing his hat in Johnny's direction. The Astros took the field, and Eddie proudly waved his antique glove toward the bleachers. This brought about some additional whispers in the stands. "Hey, you sure you can afford the $100? From the look of your kid's glove, I can see it could be better spent," chided Rocco's father. "What'd you do? Give him like a third-generation hand-me-down?" "You know, you're starting to get on my nerves, fella. I don't mind a little good-natured ribbon, but I think you're getting I think you're getting just a little bit out of hand. So do yourself a favor and put a lid on it, okay? Mr. Romano stated angrily. Vince, just ignore this jerk. We're not going to have a fight here, Mrs. Romano pleaded. Who you calling a jerk, lady? I've had better one-night stands than you. That remark was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back. Mr. Romano grabbed Rocco's father by the throat, and some of the other, quote, sedate parents sitting behind him grabbed him too. Rocco's father was caught completely off guard, and he struggled helplessly as he was pinned down between the seats of the row directly behind him. Let go of me, Rocco's father demanded as he struggled to get free. Apologize to my wife. Okay, I'm sorry. No, let me up. From the tone of Rocco's father's voice, this had to be the most insincere apology of all time. That's some apology. I should just keep you pinned here. But I'm going to give you a break. Not that you deserve one. Now, you going to stop harassing me? Mr. Romano screamed into his face. Yes, just let go of me. No! Rocco's father ordered. Mr. Romano let go of him, and the others holding him followed suit. Do you think you two could just kindly quiet down? This game is for the kids, pleaded the man who sat behind Rocco's father and had helped subdue him. Go, Rocco! Go, Tigers! Rocco's father immediately started cheering, trying his best to irritate. Meanwhile, on the field, the Tigers got their leadoff hitter on base with a walk. Rocco came up to bat next and quickly lined a single into right field, putting runners on first and third. Stevie, the Astros pitcher, called for a conference on the mound to discuss strategy. While Stevie and Keith conferred about how to pitch to the next batter, Eddie joined the gathering. What do you want, Eddie? Keith questioned. Keith, let's try a new play. I learned this one the other night. You know they're going to send the runner from first to second, figuring that you won't dare throw down because of the possibility of the double steal. So this is what you do. When the kid from first bolts towards second, you make a low throw toward the second base bag. I'll race in, intercept that throw, and fire it back to you, and you put the tag on the guy trying to steal home. What do you say? Eddie asked anxiously. It sounds great, but we never practiced that play before, Eddie, Keith squabbled. Don't worry. All you have to do is throw a fastball towards second low enough for me to cut it off. Believe me, I practiced the play. With who, Eddie? Keith asked incredulously. Don't worry with who. Let's just do it, okay? Look, if Coach yells, I'm telling him that this was your idea. The umpire approached the gathering. Hey, fellas, you got to break it up. Let's get this game going. I got to take the wife shopping later. And boy, does she love to shop. The boys shrugged their shoulders in unison and then headed to their positions. Stevie anxiously stood on the mound, unsure of what they were about to attempt. As the Tiger player stepped into the batter's box, his manager signaled down to Rocco to leave on the first pitch. Stevie began his motion from the stretch position, checking both the runner on first and third. The runner on third looked awfully anxious for the ball to be pitched. Obviously, he was anxious to make the decision of whether or not to bolt toward home. He knew that if the catcher contested the stealing of second base by throwing the ball down to the second baseman, that he would immediately make a mad dash for the plate and gloriously steal home. Stevie ignored the runner on third and threw a fastball for a strike right down the middle of the plate. As the ball hit the catcher's mitt, Keith saw Rocco hightailing it towards second base. He immediately threw down in the manner instructed. The Tiger manager, completely surprised by the contested steal, yelled at his boy on third base to run home. Before the words completely left his mouth, Eddie raced in, cut off the throw, and fired it back to Keith, who took the throw from Eddie and easily tagged out the lead runner with plenty of time to spare. The crowd in the bleachers exploded with applause as the normally hapless Astros had pulled off the play of the game. Mr. Mitchell couldn't believe his eyes when the umpire called the lead runner out at home. He'd never seen a Little League team pull that play off before. He was even more astonished that it was his Little